Jeff is would you like please you all mute yourself because I hear some echo. Okay, now it's much better. So, Jeff, I will let you to share your screen and introduce the proposed amendments. And everyone, if you have any specific questions about this amendment, please feel free to ask Jeff questions. I'm here to answer any of questions regarding the procedure for the MTFP amendment. Okay, Jeff, please start.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, I could see your screen.
All right, okay. So just a moment. All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm the Director of Planning and Landscape, or Planning and Land Development at Windrose Land Services. So Windrose is the applicant for this major thoroughfare amendment request. We are representing the Casco landfill. Representatives of the landfill are here as well as representatives from Stiver Engineering, who is assisting with this project. So our proposed amendment is located along the southern border of the Houston ETJ. We are just northwest of the intersection of State Highway 288 and Beltway 8, as you can see on the bottom of the screen here. Our proposal is to realign the principal thoroughfare, Anagnost, which is an extension of Kirby Drive. So you'll hear me say Anagnost Kirby a couple times. They're the same road. We're proposing to realign that road between Alameda Genoa and Beltway 8. We are also proposing to delete a portion of the major collector street East Anderson so that it stops at the proposed location of Anagnost Kirby. You can see on the screen the red dots with the X's are the previous alignment of Anagnost Kirby, and the red dots that swing over to the west are the dots that show the proposed alignment. And then you can see East Anderson, which crosses east to west and is perpendicular to Anagnost. We are proposing to delete that portion shown with the blue circles and the black X's, and to basically just bring East Anderson to a stop at the new proposed alignment for Anagnost Kirby. So this major thoroughfare amendment is the first step in a multi-year process to do two things, and that is to limit access to the Casco landfill property and to consolidate their landfill permits. So what I've done is I've flipped to to a new page of the presentation, which shows our proposed amendment overlaid with the Casco landfill boundary, which is shown in gold. And the proposed amendment is shown by a large 120-foot swath of, that's shaded in red and green. And I'll get to what all those things mean. So there are currently over 4 miles of perimeter on the landfill property, with at least 10 access points at unimproved rights-of-way. So the part of this amendment is to move Kirby over to the west, so that it will not be cutting through the landfill property. And part of this long-term multi-year process is to petition the city to abandon the rights-of-way for Anagnost, Anderson, Corrales, Lou Briggs, and McGrath. These are all roads that actually cut through the landfill property now, and they are posing some serious access issues and safety issues for the landfill and their workers. This area has seen high crime and illegal dumping. And so by moving the thoroughfare off the property, the Casco landfill can then petition the city to shut down these rights of way and be able to secure their property. As I said, there's over 4 miles of perimeter, so you can see this landfill property is quite large. The second reason we're pursuing this amendment is to consolidate multiple landfill permits for each active landfill debris pyramid that you see on the map. So the current alignment for East Anderson, for Kirby and Anagnost, you can see on the thoroughfare map here, it is cutting right through the middle of active landfill sites. You can see those a little bit better on this screen. I've shaded them in red, or I've outlined them in red. Each of those are debris pyramids where construction debris for this landfill is being hauled and stored. So long-term plans for the landfill are to consolidate the various permits they have into one, so that they comply and so that they will comply with the most recent TCEQ standards, and optimize the land they have available for waste collection, making best use of the existing degree pyramids without expanding into additional land area. So our proposed alignment has been designed to avoid as many property owners as possible and put the burden of obtaining variances on the applicant with one or two small exceptions. So our alignment also utilizes the west line of the existing Hooper Road right-of-way, which you can see here is the next north-south street to our west. And we're utilizing the west line and intending that future dedications for Kirby would all be towards the landfill property, placing the burden to dedicate on them as they plat. The Casco landfill is comprised of various ownership entities and numerous parcels, approximately 370 acres. And so, as I said, this is a long-term plan to first remove the alignment of Kirby off of as much of the landfill property as possible, so that these debris pyramids can be expanded. Mushin, that's really the extent of my prepared remarks. Do you have anything to add, or does anyone have any questions?
No, for me, these are really for the attendance, the audience. Please feel free to ask any questions you have regarding this application.
Yes, so I see Theodore R. Andrews' hand is up. So
yes, can you hear me? I did have a question.
Yes,
really, I wanted to share with you that I represent the Hiram Clark Fort Bend Redevelopment Authority, TERS number 25, and we were looking at a planning stage of connecting Kirby Drive on the north at Alameda Genoa to Kirby Drive on the south at Beltway 8. And this would be the connection along Anagnost Road. My concern is the environmental impact to the community. If there has been a impact statement for moving the road to the west, or whether an impact statement is required regarding moving the road to the west.
So a couple of clarifications, or a couple of clarifications, comments from me. Then I may ask Mushin if she could give some comments as well. So the road right now currently does not exist fully. So there are portions of Anagnost Road near Alameda Genoa which are built, and there's a shorter portion to the south near Fellows Road and Beltway 8 which is currently constructed. But this proposal is is basically to realign the proposed alignment. So any road that is dedicated in this area in the future. The area between Alameda Genoa and Beltway 8 is largely unimproved. So what we mean by that is there is an existing public right-of-way that does not have a street pavement laid down. It does not have utilities running alongside it. So most of this road is actually not constructed. What this amendment is it's to move the proposed alignment of the future road to the west. So I don't know if there would, in terms of environmental impacts, like I said, most of the road is not constructed. And so I can't imagine there would be more than just the normal impacts you'd have whenever you're building a new road. I wanted to see if Mushin had anything to add about, are there environmental factors or specific studies that would go into the Planning Commission's thoughts whenever they're looking at approving a realignment like this?
So firstly, regarding the environmental analysis, that's not part of the MTFP amendment process, but we will need to look into that, because I think we need someone to mute themselves because I hear some background noise. Okay, so the major thing here we are looking at is the realignment of the major survey will cut through some other adjacent properties that may directly impact those adjacent property owners. And I believe, Jeff, you have started to contact those adjacent property owners, and we would definitely need to hear from them. regarding the environmental impact analysis, the property owners would need to follow whatever TCEQ requirement. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And then Thito, we also have in the meeting here representatives from the landfill. So I can see that Ben and Rick have their hands up. So Ben and Rick, if you'd like to unmute and share.
Okay, well, thank you. And Mr. Andrews, thank you for your question. Just wanted to share a couple points about the environmental impact. Right now, the way Anagnost is dedicated goes through the Casco landfill. It's if it were to be developed, if Kirby were to be developed according to the current plan, Kirby would be it'd have landfill on both sides of it. So from an environmental impact, we think it's very advantageous to reroute Kirby so that rather than dividing the existing landfill in half, or rather into a little bit on the west and most of it on the east, to rather go around it so as to have the least amount of environmental impact. And related to that, there is a in 2021 we received an estimate from some construction companies about what it would cost to do the development, and it was estimated at 24 million to do the engineering work and the earthwork for it. That was in 2021 prices. We've adjusted that according to the the Industrial Construction Price Index that's issued by the Texas Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that cost, if it were to be incurred today, would be over 33 million. That's to develop Kirby through Anagnost where it is, and having Kirby Drive be have essentially land impact statement. That's a little bit outside my bailiwick in terms of my expertise. I can speak to, just practically from an environmental standpoint, it would be advantageous not to have a major thoroughfare surrounded by landfill, even if it's a type 4 construction debris landfill. And also, Mr. Andrews, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to address them directly on behalf of Casco, as well as Mr. Butte. He's here to answer your questions as well.
I do have follow-up. Looking at the map, it's not clear to me whether the proposed diversion goes through the mobile home park or right next to the mobile home park.
Yes, Mr. Andrews, the current proposed realignment would is shown going through, of course, the southeast portion of the mobile home park, as well as a few other properties that are adjacent to the Casco landfill. And I want to give a reminder as to what David mentioned at the beginning of the presentation in the main room, which is that the MTFP process is not showing construction plans or an exact definitive location of the road. We are adjusting it. We are proposing a new alignment so that in the future, when these properties redevelop, the land for the right-of-way would be dedicated on a plat or through some other means, and then eventually in the future, the road would be constructed. So this is just a proposed alignment and not an actual construction plan. And Ben,
you say something?
Yeah, Ben, your hand is still up.
That's a technological challenge on my part. I'll fix it.
Okay, I see Camel Rash raise your hand, so please feel free to unmute yourself and then raise your questions.
This is, yes, Kamal Rashid. I'm also working with Theodore Andrews on this preliminary work for the TERS and Redevelopment Authority. So my question is, so since I guess the city or the being proposed for the city to abandon the existing right-of-way that's cutting through the middle of the landfill. So as a part of that abandonment, will the reworking of the road around the landfill, will that land will that process start to actually acquire that land going around the landfill?
Greg or Gregory Carter?
So at this time, just with this proposed amendment, no, the realignment would not involve acquiring any land at this point. usually the way that land is acquired for thoroughfares is whenever a property goes to develop or to redevelop, and a plat is required, which a plat is a legal document map that must be filed with the city, filed and approved with the city prior to building permits being issued. But there's a platting process, and during that process, the city will look at the major thoroughfare map, which is what we're proposing to amend tonight through this process, and any future roads that are shown on the thoroughfare map would need to be dedicated to the public. This would be just for dedicating the land. That is through the platting process. The process to abandon the rights of way within the landfill, that's a separate process called a joint referral committee process. And it would not necessarily coincide with dedicating land outside of the boundary or even within the boundary for the major thoroughfare.
I want to add is if the alignment has been approved by the planning commission and approved by the city council, what shown on the screen, the green and red portion will be the new alignment. Yes, Jeff is correct. It will not require the construction happen today. However, whenever the properties like where the alignment located at, they are redeveloped, they will be the one required to dedicate the land and construct the right of way. So maybe if there are any property owners of those properties being impacted, you may need to talk to the landfill property owner to discuss like what are the options because it does impact those properties.
So I have two questions, I guess, based on that. One, so the area where the road is in the landfill owner's property, as a part of this, will the landfill owners go ahead and dedicate that area to the for the right of way? And then the other question is, so what would happen in the case of the existing mobile home development towards the north, where it's already developed? And so there's no foreseeable, I guess, change to replat that to something else, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So if, for example, the mobile home park, they are not developed, they just stay as it is, nothing will happen. So we will not force them to remove the mobile homes and then construct the home, the roadway. But for example, 20 years later, the mobile home, they are no longer exist for whatever reason, there's redevelopment happen on that tract. And the developer at that time, they decide to do something different and they submit a plat. And then at that time, they will be required to make the right-of-way dedication and then construct the roadway when they develop the land.
Yes, and in regards to the first question, there is no plan yet, or there's no timeline on when thoroughfare or right-of-way dedications would happen inside the landfill property. There are quite a few steps, as Michelle was mentioning with the mobile home property, for example. It could stay in its current condition for many, many years, even decades, prior to redeveloping and needing permits of some sort that would require the road to be dedicated. So at this time, we don't have a timeline where we would say that the landfill property would approach the city and need to go through the platting process and actually dedicate the land. So there's not a timeline at this point.
And Jeff, would you please also clarify by realign the major thoroughfare, Anagnost and East Anderson, both of them will remain as a public street, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So this proposed realignment would not change the streets from private to public. From public to private. These would remain public thoroughfares. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Michelle. There was a final slide in here just to show what what these thoroughfares are. So Anagnost Road, also known as Kirby, is classified right now as a principal thoroughfare, which means it's the right of way itself, which is the public land, not the pavement width, but the public land that the pavement sits in. It is proposed in the future to be 120 feet wide. Currently, It's classified as 120 feet wide, but only 60 to 70 feet of it actually exists. And so another complication with, building out a full right of way and a full street for Kirby through the landfill property is that there are already debris pyramids on either side that are built up against the edge of the existing 60-foot right of way section. And so the plan calls for this to be practically doubled in size. And so there are also environmental concerns about how do you widen this public area in between two existing debris pyramids, and what would that mean with the debris that's in those areas. But back to your question, Mission, yes, this is all proposed to be, the realignment of Kirby would propose to be the same width, 120 feet wide as a public right of way. And East Anderson Road, we're also not proposing to change the classification of that road at all. We're simply proposing to, on the thoroughfare plan, cut it back to where the new alignment of Kirby is. And so there wouldn't, we're talking about abandoning that portion between the old alignment of Kirby and the new alignment of Kirby. But otherwise, East Anderson itself would stay the same outside of the landfill property. Did that answer your question, Mr. Rashid?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
I had another question. I guess this is to Jeff, Ben, or Rick. I think that we would benefit, or at least my opinion, the TERS would benefit from further discussion during the public comment period. If you all are interested in maybe meeting or talking or getting together, we'd certainly like to do that. You could put the contact information in the chat, and then we could follow up after this meeting.
Absolutely. Yes, I'll drop my email and phone number in the chat right now.
Thank you.
I will also leave my contact information on chat. Please feel free to let me know if you have any questions. I will be more than happy to help as well.
Ms. Fang, I don't have any more comments.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, if I could chime in just for a second. Mr. Andrews, we were wondering, is TERS 25 the 5 corners, or is it a different TERS?
The TERS 25 and 5 corners operate together under a tri-party agreement with TERS 9. TERS 25 is a city-created entity, and 5 corners is a management district created by the state. But we certainly operate together, and if it's okay with you, we would like to include them in some of our discussions so that we have other public input into what's going on and be able to share information with other members of our community.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Andrews, I'd also like to say that we, at the last thoroughfare meeting, we were approached by members from the engineering community who actually also work with TERS 124. And so we just reached out to them this week as well. They would like more information. So yes, we would definitely be happy to meet with 5 corners, TERS 25, TERS 9 for sure.
Did you say TERS 24?
124. I'm sorry, one.
Jeff, it's 24.
Oh, I'm sorry, just 24.
Yeah. Hey, Chris Brown here.
Hey, Chris, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, it's TERS 24.
I had it wrong in my notes.
We have about 3 TERS in the area in the management district, and we've been trying to step up our efforts to spread information about things that are changing and happening in the community. So it would be good to share that information with all of the different entities and move forward that way.
It's a great idea. We'd love it. Thank you.
Mr. Andrews, would you please send me your contact information? You could just email me. My email is on chat, and I would like to touch base with you throughout the process if we need additional input from you.
I will do that.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions regarding this amendment?
Hey, Mishan.
Yes.
Hey, I'm just wondering, and this is more of you know, I've been doing this for a long time, so and I know what the standards are, but it seems to me that the centerline radius requirement, as written in chapter 42, is a real deterrent to providing an alignment that could benefit everybody in a more amenable way. I'm wondering if there's any mechanism that would allow the department to make a recommendation to the planning commission for reduction in the centerline radius, so as to help out the existing neighborhoods. Is that at all a possibility? Have we ever done that before in previous alignment applications?
I need to double check. So because normally for the major survey, the radius, like the variance, normally the developer, property owners, they could submit the reduced radius via a variance process. However, normally it needs to be approved by this alignment first and then ask for the variance. But like really procedurally, I would need to talk to the other department first. We will have the interagency meeting tomorrow, and I will get their feedback, and then we could go from there. I will let you all know. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it might be something that might help out all parties and could kind of, you know, do all this in one step instead of having to burden other properties in the future. And it might allow this alignment to get constructed in a more timely manner because more burden could be placed on a single property owner, or in this case, the applicant. I know they have multiple property owners, but just something to think about. And I'm just wondering whether that could be in addition to our overall process year to year, that radii could be tied to the application since the alignment is changing anyway, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I get you. We will discuss that.
Mushin, this is Richard. And for Chris's comment, if it's in the city, I would think we would look to be tying I mean, because as long as you're meeting the IDM constraints, that I think the major thoroughfare would be allowed, you know, you'd be allowed to move forward with that.
Yay, Richard.
And the reason why I say that is because we have gone to allowing smaller radii with super elevation and stuff like that, maximum 4%, and that is in the design manual. So
yeah,
there is, I mean, and so as long as you're working within those parameters, I don't see where. But I'm, you know, I'm sorry, with Mushin's comment, I think she still needs to take it back. But I would say that meeting within the IDM parameters, that if you're on the major thoroughfare and you're staying within the parameters, you should be okay.
Yeah, I think there is a way perhaps to get an IDM radius, something that still works in that. And obviously super elevation would probably need to occur, but at least, I mean, the 2,000 foot, let's be honest, is geez, that's for freeways. You can drive 65 miles an hour on a 2,000 foot radius. If we were to, you know, think about this as the local public street that it actually would be. You know, we've got examples in the world already that have a tighter radius. So just something to think about and look at it. And if we could combine that in this process, it could help out a lot of applicants for a lot of years. You know what I mean?
Well, and I would think that if you're proposing something that like this, you know, it requires tighter radiuses, you're going to have to show how that works. For if I'm, you know, sitting in the commission listening to this, if you can't show that a tighter radius works and that you could meet our design standards, then there would be no reason for it to even be on the amendment process.
Of course.
I would think that that's something that you have to be able to show for us to support it in the amendment. As it relates to the city of Houston, I know that anything in the county has to meet county standards, and the county does not allow super elevation. Sorry, let me back up. Harris County. I don't know about all the counties, but Harris County does not. So.
Hey, Chris and Jeff, I'm just jumping in to see how things are going. Have you had a little traffic in here?
Yeah, things are going well.
Okay,
So that's
good,
a
good.
question.
Okay, we've got just a few more minutes. I probably won't make it back here. So we're gonna, at the end of the meeting, we're just gonna make sure we stop recording it, but think, if y'all don't have any questions for me, I sure thank you for your time. It looks like it's going pretty swimmingly in here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sharon.
Yep, thanks,
Thank you,
Sharon.
Michelle. No problem.
Do we have any other questions for this amendment? If not, you're welcome to leave or join the other breakout room, and Jeff will stay in case we have a new audience and ask questions, okay? Thank you all.
Great, thank you, Machine.
Now I need to join the other breakout room. Talk to you later, Jeff.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, check out my email.
Hey, Chris. All right, we'll do. It looks like we have another question from Ram in the chat. He says, "Hi Jeff, can this portion of Kirby be moved from 1415 Alameda to land in between 1429 and 1515?" I'll definitely take a look at that, Ram. If you could leave your contact info in the chat, although I believe I may have it, but if you could leave it for the record, we can get an answer back to you. Anything that falls, I can't say outside of out maybe to the north of Alameda Genoa or where the alignment is on the north side is not included in this proposed amendment. But if there are possible future amendments that would be made, we could look at how they would be affected by this as well. So I'll investigate the areas that you've shown on the map, and we'll get back to you. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I'll investigate the addresses you put in the chat and see where they fall on the map, and we can get back to you.
Mr. Gar, I see your comment and I just checked the map. It looks like the Kirby Drive north of Alameda Genoa is not, if I may, Jeff, I could share my screen to show the alignment to answer some of your question. Okay, let me share my screen.
Yes, that's fine. I stopped sharing, Lushin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the alignment of Kirby Drive north of Alameda Genoa. It's a proximate location, and as we mentioned at the beginning, it's just shown on the map. We have no construction plan at this time, and this property is the dot like 1429 Alameda Genoa. According to this plan, we extended partial of it will be located within your property, but it doesn't mean that you are required to construct the roadway at this time. It's just a plan. Whenever your development is developed, and then we will look into that and require the right-of-way dedication at that time. This is the proximate alignment. Hope that answer your question.
But how do I develop the property? Because I will not get anything done over here. If my front is only 200 feet wide, and this road is 125 feet, and then I leave another 25 feet for the major thoroughfare. So I'm not left with anything over here. So if this move in between the land after the 1429, between the lane, there's a land already vacant land. If you can go straight from here all the way down and then connect to the Anagnost, that might be protect all the properties. Or it can go in the middle of the 1415 and 1429 somewhere. We can both have 50 feet or 60 feet each, and then it will leave enough land for both of us to develop.
Yes, I hear you, and certainly that could be option, but right now, today, the proposed amendment is not for this portion, not for the portion north of Alameda Genoa. If you have concerns, we can look into that in the future. But right now, today, the focus is for the portion south of Alameda Genoa.
Yeah, you
For this
understand that.
portion. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So we have 3 minutes left, and you are please feel free to ask if you have any questions. We will stay here until 7. I already put my contact on chat. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. You can also contact Jeff.
Thank you so much.
Kieran.
Okay, it is 7 p.m. Thank you all for attending today's open house, and we appreciate your feedback. You're welcome to leave this breakout room, go back to the main room. Thank you. Be in touch. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.